And I noticed I started reading it, and people ask you a lot of questions, and they're good questions. And some of them, actually, I hope you don't mind, I got involved in answering a few, or at least providing an additional answer. One of them was, can spirit somehow get involved or manipulate telephone, cell calls, radio, electronics in general? And the answer is yes, yes, yes. I think usually that's the first thing they go for on investigations with us, being it batteries getting drained, brand new ones within seconds, movie cameras actually shutting off while we're right there and then turning back on. They love electronics because EMF that's provided off them is an electromagnetic type, I would like to say, a property in which they have. So they can fit well into the electrical cycles, if you will, which is nothing more than the vision cycle. That's, FM is way outside the visible light spectrum. X-rays and so forth. So the spectrum goes way left and way right, and it continues to vibrate at a higher frequency. So that's why, depending on how spirit wants to manifest in front of you, they work on a lower light spectrum range and they can manifest. Or they go on the same bar and go to the right more and violate FM, or FM, which is cell phones. I knew a girl before I was into paranormal about 10 years ago who, in fact, her father committed suicide earlier that morning. She knew about it and was aware of it, and I brushed with her doing something, maybe at a McDonald's, and she said, "Oh my God, David, I want you to hear this message." And it was from a number that was anonymous. There was no real number on it, but it was his voice, scratchy, saying, "I'm okay, don't worry about me," and that was it. So, yeah, I mean, I see questions on your page, and I thought I would bring that up. So if your listeners on the page there, yeah, we've had, if anything they're going to gun for first, it's usually the electronics. So say you, Debra?
Yep. I've actually had tape recorders that were supposed to go 24 hours turn off in 19, and we have had my phone battery has died so badly that I've had to leave it plugged in for like 2 days for it to even get enough charge to show me that it was charging. We've had motion detectors that were set on auto and double checked by two of us that they were set on auto and have them moved to continuous. And we know they were set on auto because the motion detectors were going off periodically while we were setting up in another room. They were, going on, going off, and going on and going off. And then all of a sudden, one stayed on. I said, "It's staying on. It's not going off." And we know that they were both set on auto. So they've moved the switch to continuous.
Yeah, they will do that, and especially when we do the flashlight experiments, and if in many cases, if it's not following a rule of order, they're going on and off, and it's not making sense with the questions, I would potentially stop that and try a different type of communication. That's all about investigating, is to try to figure out how spirit's going to communicate that night. I can't tell you, some places we've gone to where the SB7 spirit box wasn't worth bringing. Didn't get a damn thing out of it, and everything was EVPs. And then, contrary to that, we were at a store in the basement out in the boonies where there were no FM signals, and we ran it, and we had an hour and a half of constant chatter. And here's what I do. I turn on the SB7 while we're setting up, and not one voice came through. Swear to God, not one voice comes through. And then when we get to that and we sit around and start asking questions, that's when answers started coming in. Now, how does that happen? The other thing about electronics is a lot of times they will actually shut things off. We will leave um, digital recorders for audio sometimes in basements of restaurants or places of business, because we're not there. We're already left, but we want to see what other activity may go that night along with video. And a lot of times you'll hear footsteps come up to the audio recorder, and we hide it behind a bunch of boxes. And you can hear the boxes move, and the damn thing's picking it up because you can hear it going, and all of a sudden it shuts off.
Yeah, this last week we had it where one actually, you could hear tap, 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 tap on the recorder itself, like they were checking to see if it would do anything if they touched it.
Well, that's a good point. And a lot of paranormal groups know this and a lot don't. The fact of the matter is, when you're dealing with spirits, you've got to be somewhat knowledgeable to the point. If you're dealing with something that's 90 to 100 years old, they don't know what you have in your hand. They don't. Recorders didn't exist. That's why explain it to them that this red thing, actually what it'll do is it'll record what you say, meaning that I'll be able to hear you when I play it back.
And they don't understand either, and I do know that. So I have explained it as, these green lights won't hurt you, but if you get by the green light, you can make them turn color, you can make them turn yellow, and make them turn green, and make them turn red. You can make a noise or say something near them, and we will be able to hear you. That's how I explain it. And I also explain it that they cannot be hurt by coming near it. They're not going to get shocked. They're not going to get hurt. These machines that we have do not hurt them, and that they can take energy from them, too.
Absolutely, and that's a good way to start one, is to go there in a non-compromising position, and not a combative type of environment, and get there and kind of talk to them at first. I usually come in and talk to them as if they're there, and tell them why we're there, and then we can't see you guys, but you can see us, and I know they can because I've been told that. And so that's one advantage you have. But we can't do anything to you, so we can't harm you. So the only way, since we can't see or hear you, we have to bring the silly stuff with lights on them. And these things that we use will be able to hear what you really want to tell us. And if there's something important tonight you need to tell us, we can take that message to wherever it needs to go. And sometimes there is a voice that you'll get on there that will ask for help. And usually help to me, and I've never pursued it, help for what? And they never answer. I think is it help moving to the other side, Deb, do you think?
Not necessarily. Actually, the old man that I was in touch with this last weekend, he got really close to only the women who were holding the EMF detectors. The guys had them too, and he wasn't going near them. So when I intuitively and psychically asked him why he was only going near the women, we found out that he was looking for his wife. And because he had not passed over, he still had really bad eyes. He said it's very difficult to see. Now, that's what I heard and that's what I felt. So what we did is we asked him, were you married? And all the EMF detectors went off. Then I said, can you step away now? And they all went off. I asked, is your wife crossed over? And he said, yes and then no, because he wasn't sure where she was. And I said, can you not find her? And he said yes, because all the EMF detectors went off again. So we asked several questions in a row, and he answered them with the light. That's pretty good. It might not be the rule of three, but it was definitely answering every single question, like 5-6 questions in a row, which is pretty conclusive.
Yeah, when sometimes you can not get the rule of 3 based on the situation, but you're getting 2. You're getting affirmative feedback when you ask a question,
Correct.
and 2, the lights are going off, showing that it's something with EMF is producing it. So those are 2 viable sources to me that make sense, especially if it goes for 5 minutes and it's very consistent with the questioning.
Yeah, and it was.
My question is, and I haven't found this out, feel free to write us or write in our chat box here. I'm suspecting in order for spirit to set the K2 meter off, has to be somewhere within 3 feet or less to start ticking it, a little bit to the right and going yellow. What do you say on that?
Wow, so far, first of all, there's no electric at this house that we were at. None. It's turned off. So for those to go off at all, there had to be some sort of electrical or whatever charge in the air. I have seen spirit before put off a kind of, remember that picture you showed me with the little sparkles that were on both sides of a vortex?
Yes.
And I felt that was like static electricity.
Yes.
Okay, that type of thing. So I think spirit may put off some sort of kind of static electricity when they enter a different place.
Yeah, the interesting thing about electromagnetism is, in many cases, the electric part wants to ground. It wants to find, that's why you have grounding cables for antennas and all that. Its first attempt, whatever it wants to do, is electricity wants to find ground. And that's what it does with lightning and so forth. And it'll use you as that. And that's why in many cases, when it comes to you, you got your hair sticking up in your arms and you got goosebumps all over and you feel it. I remember on a concrete floor in a basement, and Carrie was with me and she was filming me, and I actually had EMFs going with someone who was in that basement. I was having a quick dialogue and I was doing 30-second bursts with the EVP recorder, and I was getting answers. And all of a sudden, I had asked if you wouldn't mind walking through me. I'd like to know that experience. And it did. And when it went through me, I didn't get sick or anything, but I felt fully charged. The hairs on my hand went up, and on the side of my head, some of my hair stood out. So now I'm kind of electrified, and I feel it, and I felt cold. And then when Carrie came over to me, I felt, when I touched her hand, I said, feel how cold this is over here. A big static shock. I mean, a huge one. Now, you don't get that on a concrete floor. You never get a static. You get it on carpet. And she was amazed. We both were amazed. Boom, a big blue arc between us because it was looking for ground. And that, to me, told me and gave me evidence that absolutely that they consist of at least electromagnetism, which is huge in their environment for them to find their way and to go places. Because on the last show we showed, and pictures in our Facebooks relative to the last show on vortexes, and we had some really good pictures of them. And sometimes they need that to go to these vortexes to come in and out. We're finding out that these vortexes are all over the place. You can't see them. We think you can only see them in the full spec or IR spectrum, and they're very fast when they move around. Can't catch them with a movie theater, an IR video cam. It just doesn't work.
I think they change too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some that are permanent and stay in one place, but I think there's other ones that spirit makes or creates to go where they need to go.
Now, I'm not there with that on you. I know they exist, but I don't know factually if spirit makes them. I would like to think, but I think they're there, and Spirit can